Lagoon School in Lagos with Meg Isebo. I gave this session during 1 year. My interest in temperament came from a personal experience. I found out that my relationship with one of my colleagues in my earlier life was not very good, and I couldn't understand it. When I came across the temperament, I began to understand that the problem was that we just had two very different temperaments. I'm choleric sanguine, more choleric, unfortunately, than sanguine. I shouldn't say unfortunately, because really all the temperaments are good. And my colleague was perhaps over 90% melancholic. So we had a number of issues in the relationship, which I just couldn't pinpoint. But as soon as I understood the temperaments, I understood that things can really work out very well for us. We can enjoy a relationship just understanding that we are different and we're not trying to hurt each other. And that was very powerful. So I'm hoping that this session will help you. First, this program is put together by Parents First. And I think Parents First is such a wonderful title or theme or topic, because this session also is first for the parents. It's first for you and then for your children, because your children will, once you understand this, it improves your relationship. I assure you that this session, this on temperament, can reduce communication problems in your home by as much as 90%. Incredible. But maybe you tell me about that later, how much it reduced these communication problems. Okay, so temperament, first I'll refer you, I will do that again at the end of the session, to a website, www.temperamentquiz.com. You can take the temperament quiz there after this session, know your temperament, ask your spouse to do the same, and then see if some of your older children can do that. I've had some families actually do it and then discuss it and see how they can move forward. And it has helped family life a great deal just doing that. Okay, so now to the temperament itself. Let me, show the topic a little better. So the temperaments I'm going to present actually come from Hippocrates, a Greek philosopher and physician who about 300 or 400 BC, studied body fluids and how this influence personalities. Because today we don't, how he came about this is sometimes questioned, but the temperaments he identified are still relevant today. And they are the choleric temperament, the sanguine temperament, the melancholic temperament, and the phlegmatic temperament. So I'm going to just go through each of these temperaments, highlighting their strong points and the weaknesses of each. I hope you recognize yourselves, you recognize your spouse, you recognize your children as we go through this. And at the end, I'm going to leave it, for questions and comments. I'm going to ask each one of you also to relate this to your families and see, okay, so knowing the temperament of my child, what can I do? And that's a question I would like each one to bear in mind as we go on, because each one of us has to find an answer to this. Okay, so where do the temperaments, what's the idea here? The temperament is a natural inclination. We were born that way. So it's not about nurture, it's about nature. God wanted us to have the temperament we have. So what we have is beautiful, made by God. Everything created by God, we know God saw it was beautiful. So all temperaments are great. It's a natural inclination. However, God wants us to develop character. So from the temperament we have to forge a character through self-mastery. And this is great that we're having this session now, for those of you who are doing this for the first time, because you have the opportunity to help shape your child's character from the temperament that you now recognize that he or she has. How do you develop character? Some of us, our parents helped us to shape this without knowing what temperament was. But later in life, as I got to know it, I now saw there were areas that I had to work on. Now for you, you can help your children on this path much faster than you and I have done. So I would like us to begin with the And let me assure you that you will get copies of these slides. I already sent them to Helen Lawson, so you will have copies so we can discuss this. But I hope you recognize yourselves as we move along. Okay, so the first temperament is the sanguine temperament. This is the child that is moving around all the time. Even the baby in the cot, the head is moving, the hands are moving. And when they are able to talk, they are going da, 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 da all the time, wanting to stop. And you wonder, what is this child trying to say? This child is a bubbly child, the sanguine child. They love people. They love hugs. They are delightful, charming children. All right. They are excited about everything. They are cheerful. They are happy. In fact, as they grow up, a sanguine adult is a fun person to be with. They make a party. Without a sanguine, you have a dull party. They really make people happy. The sanguine also are storytellers. They are not necessarily factual, but they, from a trivial thing that happened, they can tell you a story that is fun, that is interesting. They are also very optimistic people. Their cup is always half full. It's raining. I'm sure the weather will change. I'm sure it will be better. Let's still go out. They will not omit going to, ShopRite or wherever because it's raining. They believe it will be better. Let's go out. They're optimistic. They have a compulsion to make everything fun. It has to be fun. Learning has to be fun. If it's too dull, they are not with it. The teacher is dull, the subject is dull, mathematics, chemistry, whatever it is, they are not with it. But if the teacher is fun, they are with that teacher all the time. They are the life of the home. When they are home, there is excitement in the home. There is something happening. There are jokes. That's the sanguine child. They love variety. And let me just say it now so I don't forget. Because sanguines love variety, you will find that a sanguine child may not be able to complete English homework before going to arithmetic or mathematics homework and then biology homework. They love variety. So they do a little bit of English and they get bored and they need something else to do. Okay, let me go out, play for 2 minutes, come back, then I'll do the chemistry homework, and then I'll do something else, and I'll come back and complete the English and the maths. They won't finish. I think there's somebody speaking. So I have a position here. All right, so they won't finish one subject and go, having finished one, go to the next. No, they have to do a little bit. And then you have parents saying, or a mother or a father saying, complete English, finish this one before you go to the next. And the child finds it very difficult to do that because that's not his natural inclination. That's not his nature. Sanguines also they thrive on compliments. So you've done, you finished your homework. How great, how nice. The child wants to do that next time because wants to hear how nice, you're so good. The child wants that compliment from you and wants to do it. So compliments work for them. Not too much criticism, not dwelling on what they didn't do well too much. Of course, we have to talk about it. But when you dwell on it too much, you paralyze them. What works with them is homework. Is compliment. If they haven't done their chores at home, or let's say they've done them, you say, "Oh, you did your chores and on time. That was really great. That was a great help to all of us." And it was very small. So let's clap for, Chiamaka for doing this. Chiamaka is on top of the world and is now willing to do any other chores that are not even her own, but just to get those compliments because they love it. By the way, it's the same if you have a sanguine wife, okay? She loves compliments. So you use compliments, not criticism, which just paralyzes, okay? And then another good point about sanguines is that they don't hold grudges. They don't keep because they don't feel things too deeply. So they can let go of a hurt, much quicker than as we see a melancholic would do. So the sanguines are the happy-go-lucky people. I remember I wrote a case study on one man who used to work at Ericsson, and one of the things he told me, he said his mother told him that, you know, you can even be friends of a lizard, you know, because it's a typical sanguine. You know, sanguines have such a network. Everywhere they go, they have friends. It was incredible, but this fellow had friends. He went once to I think it was, and what's the name of this? IITA, exactly, IITA in Ibadan for something. And then years later, about 4 years later, his company needed something from IITA. They sent a 3 or 4 engineers there, and they couldn't get into IITA because they didn't have the right passes or permissions. They called this guy up, and the guy called a gate man in IITA and got these 3 guys in. And they asked him, but how come you need to get? Oh, that time I went to Ibadan, you know, I made friends with them. And can you believe it? He was a senior manager in an international company. Yet he was communicating with this gate man for 4 years, you know, and you asked, when are they going to meet again? But he used that gate man, you know, to get them in. That's a typical sanguine. Everybody are charming. Everybody wants to be around the sanguine because they make you laugh. They make you enjoy. They may not work very hard, you know, but they really lighten up everywhere. Now, of course, they're optimistic, you know, they love beautiful things. They may be a little superficial and so on. They talk a lot. They can talk you to death. You know, they don't stop. They can talk, you know, and sometimes, most of the time, if not 100% of the time, what they are saying is funny and nice. But sometimes you just get tired. You don't just let me rest, okay? Just give me a break. Let me rest with these your jokes, okay? So the next slide here, I'm talking about some of their weaknesses, which I call the sanguine 2 instead of weaknesses, because these days people don't want to talk about weaknesses, but I think it's good to talk about weaknesses too. So one of them, of course, is vanity. You know, the sanguine likes to be the center of attractions. He's always on stage and needs an audience, you know, and that vanity, that loving praise, and depending on that, that can be a weakness. You know, I think very importantly is that their pursuits tend to fail. You know, they love variety. So they don't stay on one thing long enough to get the result. You know, very often you start something and then you have the difficulties, and then after some time, you start coming up, you know. But the sanguine may lack that staying power to go through the difficulty, and they just want the results soon, and they better be good. If they are not good, they're bored with that. I remember a friend of mine, not a child, but, you know, a friend of mine, an adult, a lady. She started 3 businesses, started one, got bored, left it, started the second one, got bored. And each time she was excited about the business. Oh, it's going to work, Franca, don't worry. It's going to work. Have you done research? You know, they won't do all that research. Sanguine are not for research. They have the feeling it's going to work. You know, I'm trying to pinpoint, you know, put them down, you know, write this down. Oh, where is the market? Where is it? No, Franca, you've been FBS again. You've been to, you know, it's going to work. And then they get bored with the thing because it's not coming out very quickly. And then, of course, her husband was angry because he was investing in this business, hoping that something will come out of it. And now we're on the 3rd business and we don't know whether anything is going to come out of it. So that becomes a problem because their analysis sometimes is not deep. Most of the time, it will work. It will work. You know, they don't have the time to bring out a template, an Excel spreadsheet, work out the numbers and all that. That's too much work now. You know, what am I? It will work, you know. So sometimes they may not see the difficulties enough. They lose interest, you know. So what we said before, we said they love variety. But that love for variety has its drawbacks, you know, losing interest, you know, staying power to complete that exam. You know, the exam takes 2 hours. In 45 minutes, you have finished because, well, I think it's okay. But why didn't you stay? There was still more time. Mommy, I was bored. You know, I'd written, I summarized all the points and left. But why would you leave? Why didn't you complete the exam? You know, so that's something that is important. The sanguines also are good at creating work for others. You know, they avoid work themselves, but they have great ideas about how work can be better done. But they are not going to do it. But the interesting thing is that they will get others to do it because they are charming. So because they are charming, they get their friends, they get their brothers and sisters, they get others to do their work for them while they just make them laugh, make them enjoy. And they're not complaining. The rest of the family is not complaining that she didn't do her chores because she was telling them stories or she promised them things and she's just so charming. You wouldn't get a choleric, will not get all that assistance from his brothers and sisters because cholerics are not charming people at all. But the sanguines, they charm you into work, okay? The sanguine will also tend to forget her obligations. Oh, I forgot, I didn't do this. And work especially, anything that requires effort, dedication and all that, not for it. So, they will tend to forget. So you have to bring them back, to get them to focus, to get them to come together and focus on a goal. That's not a natural for a sanguine. It's something that parents have to work on to get them to persevere, to go for that goal and be consistent until you get it. Of course, yes, they tend to have favorites. And the favorites, who are their favorites? Beautiful people. They love beauty. They love to dress up. They love, because it's all part of being the center of attraction, isn't it? Of attention too. They love to be complimented. You look beautiful. You look, and also they like beautiful people. So that can also, it can even happen to a parent. A parent that is sanguine may have favorite children, a favorite child or two. And if you check, they're probably very beautiful, so, and that can have an impact on family life. If any other child feels I'm not loved as much by my dad or my mom or by both, it can actually have an impact on them that is negative. So, and what else? If sanguine would volunteer, but may not actually do the work, who is going to set the table for us for dinner today? I. The sanguine's hand is up all the time. Why? Because they like attention. They like to be the one everybody says is always the first to volunteer. But when it's time to set the table, the sanguine may not be there to set the table. It may be somebody else setting the table instead of the sanguine. Now, finally, there are other things one can say, of course, but we need to move on. Another weakness of the sanguine is telling lies, telling small lies. We said earlier that they are not always factual. What is important to them is that they tell you a story that is compelling, that is funny, that is engaging. It's not about whether everything in that story is factual, it's true. So we laugh and all that with them, but we have to remember that we can't go ahead and tell that story the way she told it, because those may not be the facts. They will tell a little lie, just to exaggerate, to elaborate, and above all, so that you have fun, because they are fun people, and that's probably why they are doing it. So sometimes you wonder, why is this child always telling lies? It may be just because she wants everybody to enjoy. She doesn't also want to be singled out as lazy or dirty and didn't do this, because she's always looking for compliments. She wants to be the best, the center of attention and all that. Okay, I hope, that's a problem with this Zoom, that you don't hear anybody, so you don't know. You assume that people are following, but I'm happy I'm seeing Sandra's face. So that tells me the person is following, So, and she's encouraging me with her smile. So I'll just go ahead. So we just
go on.
The discussion of the sanguine. Now let's go to the choleric temperament. Now the choleric temperament, the choleric is the born leader. The child that even in the court is already trying to take charge. As they're little, 2 years, 3 years, they are trying to be, this is like, that's what they say is leadership, nature or nurture. This person is like born to take control, feels that, I can get things done my way now. It's got to be done, and it has to be done my way, and it has to be done now. And don't tell the choleric it can't be done. The choleric will prove to you beyond reasonable doubt that he can do it, and can do it alone and very well. That's typical choleric. Now, the choleric takes charge of the family very early. So we have to watch out. How do they take control? How can a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old choleric take control of the family? They do that through their emotional outbursts. through the tantrums to draw attention, and so that you do it the way they want it. I don't want to go to ShopRite today, but that's where we're all going. I'm not going to go there. We must not go. And they start a tantrum and they start screaming and shouting and all. Or especially when you have a visitor, they will be the one to come there and start screaming so that you will do it their way. Once you agree you're going to do it their way, the tears dry up, the tantrum is over, the whole family is going exactly where I want them to go. That's the choleric. So we have to be careful, because sometimes the children control us. They dictate. The choleric will control, will take charge of the house if we are not careful. What we are going to eat today, I don't like yam. We're not having yam today. Mommy, no, not yam. No, you're going to eat yam, I won't eat. I won't use this. Another time, and you say, okay, for peace in the family, what will you have? Let's have rice. And you say, okay, we have rice. And then there's no more tantrum. Now, who is in charge? Who is dictating our menu? Who is dictating when we go? Who is dictating when we go to church, when we leave the house? You find that the choleric very easily is the one that, because the choleric, likes to be in charge, and they be too young to be in charge. So how will they manipulate you? They manipulate you through their emotional outbursts, and so sometimes we have to be strong. You have to be strong. But the choleric also is, the choleric has that's a compulsion to change things, to fix things. This thing is not in order, I put it in order, okay? They have a strong will. They can overcome obstacles, and this is a positive. It's very good positive. They are decisive too. It has to be done, we get it done. Of course, there will be obstacles, but obstacles are meant to be overcome. Who goes to a hurdles race and is surprised to find a hurdle? A hurdle is part of the game of life, That's the choleric charging along. Not easily discouraged, we'll keep at it, and get it done. They are also independent. They exude confidence. They rely on their own knowledge and ability, perhaps too much, and may not be great team workers. They may look down on the other poor humans. You know what I mean? Other people, because you were looking at them and wondering, what do they know? What experience do they have? I know it. I have the knowledge. I have the, so there's that, we'll come to that later, a little bit of pride, of feeling, but why? I mean, I know it. I know how to do this. So if you don't know, well, what do we need a team for? And you look at the team members, what can they really contribute? What do they really know? Okay, so the choleric is so decisive. I told you at the beginning that I'm choleric sanguine. And sometimes I notice, I say something, and I have said it so strongly that there is no room for opposition. And I didn't mean it. I didn't mean that nobody should oppose me. But it's like the choleric has spoken and is QED. Finish. The matter is over. Determined. And because others are like, what just happened? I mean, okay, I can't express myself anymore because the choleric has spoken. But let's remember that these are natural inclinations. It's not that the choleric speaks to ensure that you cannot say anything against. Is that it's natural. It's natural. They say that. That's how it's naturally to them. The cholerics also are goal-oriented, very goal-oriented. If I'm talking of, let's take a choleric husband. Choleric husband, or all cholerics actually, have big visions to change Nigeria, to, big. Don't think small. If you think small, the choleric lacks respect for you. We say, you have to, what are you doing? This, thinking small, as if you have a small brain, you have to think big. There are many things to achieve. How can we have a small house, dream big, because the choleric is moved by big dreams, big visions, strong passions, enthusiastic. Now, something else that may not be, may come in as a negative is that the choleric thrives on arguments. Should I say that again? The choleric thrives, not just manages or, thrives on arguments. So why? because the choleric does not put his heart in the argument. The argument is something of the brain only, isn't it? It's the head you use for the argument. And an argument, I assure you, even till today, for me, an argument is enjoyable. It's not something stressful at all. It's something you enjoy. It's delightful. I say this, you don't agree, this is fantastic. You don't agree, better. Then let's talk, let's debate, let the best idea win. And at the end, we can shake hands, we can take a drink, we are happy. But for some other people, those arguments are stressful. They are so stressful, they want to avoid us. Once they see the argument is coming, they say, please, I'm coming, I'm coming. They run away. And the choleric is thinking, why are you going away? For something beautiful is about to start. Why would you leave such a thing? But of course, that's the choleric. Now, if you have a choleric spouse and you love your peace, remember that in a very, very peaceful house is not the best place for a choleric. The choleric every so often has to ginger things up. So allow the choleric to enjoy. I'm a choleric, so I'm speaking for the cholerics, okay? Allow them to enjoy the argument once in a while, okay? Once in a while. So they don't leave home and go look for other people to enjoy the argument with. They can enjoy it with you once in a while, okay? The choleric also subconsciously dominates other people. Even with all the effort. I can give you an example. We had a seminar when I was working in LBS. There was a seminar organized, and I was part of that seminar. We had invited some lecturers from abroad, and we went off to Ugere, and I was part of the seminar. And I was young then. Well, I still consider myself a little young now, but I was very young then. And I was probably the youngest in my group. So we were divided into groups of five or six, and I was in that small group, and there were about 4 groups. And in that group were a number of CEOs, and this was early 1990s. No, late 1990s. And I thought, well, I may be a lecturer in LBS, but hey, these are senior, well-accomplished people, So, Franca, don't start talking and, taking control of everything again. Put yourself, be humble, try. I really put all the effort. I tell you, I went out of my way to put all the effort. And then they told us, give everybody feedback in the team and all that. And all 5 of them told me I was controlling. I was so angry. I said, I really tried. I put so much effort, and you all say I'm controlling. He said, oh no, but you didn't do it overtly. It wasn't clear, but it was subconscious. So even that effort I was making not to be controlling was noticed, and they found me controlling. So that's very choleric, to be controlling, give orders. Because of that, deep down, you probably think we are right. We've taught it all. We are right. All you need to do is just obey, do what we are telling you to do. You don't need to rethink it. We have already taught it, and our answer is right, and that's not true, but that's how we work. Now, what are some of I'm taking too long on this, I think. What are some of the weaknesses of the choleric? What are some of the weaknesses of the choleric? I think, of course, being bossy, impatience. Impatience is such a big thing. Pride, anger. These are things that we have to struggle with, try to improve. I talked earlier about that controlling others through emotional outbursts and tantrums. That's the anger. The choleric can be so angry that he or she can destroy what he has built. And if you tell him or her, I bet you build this thing, the answer you get, don't worry, I'll build it again. Why would you destroy something only to build it again? But because they are so angry. So anger is anger management, which is something I think you discussed maybe 2 months ago or so, is critical for the choleric. It's something that the choleric has to, because if not, it become uncontrollable. So another something else, another area for improvement is that lack of sympathy. It's said that the choleric has 2 heads. Don't believe this. I don't believe it anyway. That the choleric has 2 heads and no heart. That's unfortunate, isn't it? You know, that's so strong, so terrible. But the fact is that the choleric has more head than heart. You know, is not the typical sympathizer that you always, oh, how sorry, oh, how very understanding that you couldn't meet your target and you weren't on time, you've been late now, you've delayed going to school on time 3 times this week. Oh, of course, there were some issues. Forget it. The choleric is not going that route. The choleric is using the head and say, you know, 3 times this week, you've made us go there. Yeah, it's not going to happen again, okay? It's not happening, you know, because it just always is the head first. And therefore, when dealing with cholerics too, even though you are trying to encourage them to develop a heart, because remember, we're trying to build character, that to reach them, you reach them more easily with reasons why A should be done, why you have to show sympathy. Give me the reason. Because that's what first hits me. It's not the heart that hits me, because the heart is not as developed as the head. So you hit me with the head, and then we can talk about the heart. Now, something else about the choleric that may make family life a bit difficult is that the choleric, without thinking about it, just spontaneously, if there are 10 ways of saying something, the choleric will say spontaneously the worst way of it. We choose the worst way of saying it. The way that hurts, that others will say is hard, is even harsh. Why would you say such a thing? And the choleric will wonder, what did I say? There's nothing wrong in what I said. Is it not the truth? And if you check, most of the time it's the truth. But must the truth be said that way? Is there another way of saying it? That is something that the choleric has to learn. Because the natural way, what comes immediately to mind, is not the way that is diplomatic, that is, you know, mindful of others. It's just as it is. Bam, bam, take it. You know, that's it. Okay, so let's move on. So we have time for questions. And then we move on now. So we talked about the sanguine, the happy-go-lucky temperament, the choleric, the controlling, bossy, you know, temperament. And then we come to the melancholic temperament. You know, remember how I started? Now my colleague is melancholic, and I am more choleric. So that accounted for a lot of the clashes we had. You know, so I have a lot of respect for melancholic, because I know that cholerics cause melancholics a lot of trouble. So I was causing this poor colleague a lot of trouble, you know, and that's why she was like pushing me away. She didn't want to relate. She didn't want more trouble. So when I realized that, of course, things change. It took time for things to change, but they change. All right, so the strong points of the melancholic temperament. These are the profound thinkers, the poets, the artists, you know, the people who play musical instruments, and play really well. Why? Because it requires dedication, it requires time. The melancholic will give it the time required, will dedicate what is required to get it done. You know, the melancholic loves perfection. It must be done right. There is a way of doing it, and we follow that way. You know, they love order. So if they drop their toothpaste somewhere, they know if you moved it by 1/10 of an inch. And then somebody like me, I wonder, what does it really matter? 1/10, we moved it a little bit, it doesn't matter. The truth is still where it was. You can still say, I didn't take it to another room, okay? So it's still fine. But no, don't move my things. It was exactly here. So order is very important to them. You know, I remember a young a lady that attended one of the sessions I gave on this topic on temperament. She was 20-something years old, maybe about 27. And she said her parents are melancholic. She is melancholic. And she has a sister, an only sibling that is sanguine. And sorry. And they spent their life trying to fix her sister. And there must be something wrong with her. How can she not? Because it was the whole house was so orderly. When she came back from school, she knew where to leave her shoes, everything. But her sister will come and just throw things all around. Just a minute, I think. Let me just drink a little water.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. So, they have, because the melancholic have order, they follow procedures, they develop a schedule. There's a schedule for the day, and it's easy for a melancholic child to follow. They need a schedule and they follow it. Okay. They like charts, they like graphs, they like, they are introverts. They have a very rich world inside them. Very rich, because they don't speak much. They're quiet most of the time, but they study and they analyze things. They analyze, almost analysis paralysis. You know what I mean? They analyze and analyze. They will cross the T's, they will dot the I's. They love to finish a task. So let me come back to the example of the homework. A melancholic child, unlike the sanguine, will finish one subject perfectly, QED, then go to another subject. There must be order. You don't do a bit of this, you do a bit of that. No, they follow, So you find a parent looking, if you have a melancholic child and a sanguine child, you start comparing them and you tell the sanguine child, can't you see your brother finishes one subject and goes to the next? Why can't you do the same? It's difficult for that child to do the same because that child is sanguine and this child is melancholic. And who said that that's the only way to pass exams and the only way to learn? That you must finish one thing before you go to the other. Okay? We talk more about how to improve them, how to get them, to help them develop character. So the melancholic is an introvert, we said, is an analyzer, is factual. So while the sanguine is telling those little lies and making fun, the melancholic is interjecting with the exact thing that happened. No, there weren't 200 people, there were exactly 24 people. It's not even 20 approximately. The melancholic will tell you there were 24. The sanguine will say there were just so many people, they could have been 200. I'm telling you, it was massive, massive. And the melancholic tells you there were 24 people. Everybody say, only 24. And the sanguine will take the story from there and continue, elaborating and making it bigger, So the melancholic is serious, purposeful, sees the serious side of life. May consider the sanguine to be flippant, superficial. Life is serious, So they also have a lot of empathy. They have a deep concern for people. They have a need to finish what they started. So if they can't finish it, they are not happy, and they may not have time to finish it. And you will find that I haven't finished the report, or the child didn't finish the homework, but it's time to go to bed and it's time to submit. The child doesn't feel easy about going to sleep. I must finish. Why? Because it's that compulsive need to come to an end, to have closure, Why? It's the exact opposite of the sanguine. Sanguine, you go to bed happily with a homework that was, not even half finished, but no problem. But for the melancholic child, I need to finish it. It's an assignment. It's a responsibility. I feel that responsibility and I want to do it. Okay. The sanguine is also, the melancholic, sorry, is reserved, but they open up to people they trust. So trust is very important. And not betraying that trust is very important. So if your child is your child and is reserved, they are is the child that doesn't want to be sitting with everybody else, goes to his or her room, likes her own company, likes to be alone, withdrawn. And you're like, hey God, where did this one come from? Especially if you are sanguine. Where did this child come from? Of course, this child came from God. All right. Of course, this child is a melancholic child, wants to be alone and all that. So, how do you help that child to not be alone? Because as we see, being alone is not very helpful to them. So let's come to some of the areas where they can improve, some of the weaknesses. I think the one I should emphasize here is the mood. Okay, that they easily melancholic because they are reserved. They easily fall into moods. They remember the negative things of life. They have little hurts, things that hurt them are exaggerated. And they can use these moods to manipulate even their parents. You know, remember the choleric, that we use the emotional outbursts to manipulate you. Here is the mood. I don't want to go to this place and they all want to go there. I'm not going. And you just see, like, you know, the mood changes and they are serious and they are in their rooms. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go. That mood also, what's the mood telling you? All of you change your plan, come my way, isn't it? So the mood sometimes can be used as a manipulative tool. The standards of the melancholic are often too high. They demand perfection. They love perfection. And you and I know that perfection is in heaven, isn't it? So the standards are so high. And sometimes I've seen that they are extremely good. I've been a teacher for so many years of my life, and I've seen melancholic students, brilliant, but they will not raise up their hand to answer a question. And you wonder why. Why wouldn't they raise their hand up? Because they feel it's not perfect. I'm not sure I have the right answer. Am I sure? Surely there's another answer that is better than this. Surely they are such self-critics. They don't come out. But when you force them to speak, very often you end up asking the class to clap because what they have said is so profound. But they are surprised that everybody finds it profound because for them, it may not still be good enough. So that's helping your melancholic child to know that he or she is good. And what you have inside, share it. Because some people may not even have half of what you have inside. Especially because they are reserved, because they listen a lot to others. They know a lot. They have a very rich world inside, but you have to tap into it because they don't freely open it up and share it with others. Remember, this can also apply to you or to your spouse, not only your children. So let's keep this in mind. So, but another reason why they may not share, what they have, is that they fear humiliation. They absolutely fear humiliation. So if you want to correct or a melancholic child and the other siblings are there, wow, that, children, no matter how soon, if it's incredible, like 2-3-year-old child is very concerned about rep, as they call it, their reputation. It's incredible. When we were small, there was nothing like reputation. Even when we were teenagers and university students, which reputation do you have? Your parents can beat you or at any time, any day, and nothing. But now, I think things have changed, and also the melancholic is more aware of it, doesn't want to be humiliated, and therefore stays back. So if you be careful, and I think that's what I was doing, I know that was what I sometimes did to my colleague, without meaning to, but I would say things that would hurt her, or say things in public that maybe didn't put her in the best light. So I was somebody to be avoided. As soon as I realized this, that this your spontaneity is getting you into trouble. Now let's start working on it, and little by little, because it takes time for the melancholic to open up. Once you lose their trust, it's very difficult to gain it. You work at it, you sweat before you can get that trust back, but it's possible to get it back. We have to keep working on it. They are also slow in decision making. Why we say the choleric is decisive. With the little information the choleric has, make a decision, move on, and learn from it. But for the melancholic, that is irresponsible. You have to have enough information to make a decision that is responsible. So they are waiting for that perfect time, for that time when they have enough information to be able to make a decision that is the best decision. So another area we have to talk about is that difficulty in forgiving. And it's not that the melancholics are terrible people, because sometimes you say, are you not a Christian? How can you not forgive? This is their natural inclination, and they are fighting against it. But the fact is that the melancholic finds it difficult to forgive hurts and recalls immediately so many things you have done. And some people say, you mean even this thing that happened in which year? You still remember it? Hey, I'm afraid of you. How can you keep all these things? But if the person is melancholic, the person can't do much. Is trying probably, but cannot do so much about it. They get hurt, and they get so hurt sometimes, it's like they are trying to console themselves. They are trying to, get over it. And it's not easy for them. Okay. There won't be time for question and answer if I'm not careful. So the phlegmatic temperament, phlegmatic, okay? This is a very easygoing temperament. It's like, who cares? No problem. They are the easiest people to live with, to work with, to get along with. Although, as we talk, they also say there are also some weaknesses, but they are the easiest of the four temperaments. Not that the other temperaments are not good. Remember that every creation of God is good. God saw that it was good. But these are easier. They are patient. They are quiet but witty. They are cool. They are calm. They are not excited about anything. The choleric is full of excitement. The sanguine is excited. This one's no excitement. Oh, we are going out to I don't know what. Really? That's the answer, isn't it? Okay. Nothing. Say, well, how can I excite? How can I have a child that is not excited? Something must excite you. It's not by force. They are not excited about this. They are happy to sit around. They are happy to be even pushed around, willing to be pushed around. If I'm here, is okay. Is okay. Anyone, not much energy. Also, I remember giving this class to some teachers in a school, and the head teacher told me that she was phlegmatic when she was, and I use the word was, when she was young. But her mom and her elder sister did not give her breathing space. And she changed with time. Because to study for any exam, to do her homework, they were on her case on a daily basis. It's like they do the schedule and she has to follow, and she made it. And I looked at her and I said, and now you are head teacher of a school, ensuring discipline. She said, wow, if you had seen me before, you would never think I'll make it here. Which means that this temperament, if we understand it early, we can actually help our children to develop a character that is more rounded. The phlegmatic is sympathetic kind, they are good counselors, but they have trouble making decisions. They would rather not make decisions because decisions bring responsibilities and they don't want responsibilities. They are not usually offended, they don't care, nothing deep. It's okay. How do you want it? It's okay. You come to their weaknesses, you ask in the morning, you ask a phlegmatic child, what do you prefer? You want Milo or you want Bonvita? Anyone is fine. If you have more, but anyone you give me, choose one, which the choleric will be pushing, make a decision. Which one do you want? Say, no problem. Now, anyone you give me is good. Because all I need is a drink, isn't it? Something hot. If you don't even have anything hot, it's okay. I will still go. I don't need. It's okay, And then the rest of people are saying, how can everything be okay for you? But everything is okay for me now. I don't have problem. Now you get problem. I don't have problem. So, but the challenge with, so they are not exasperated by offenses and failures. They move on fast, And then, but the challenge with one challenge with the phlegmatic is that, in those days, people used to talk about NFAs, no future ambition. They are not goal-oriented people in the sense of trying to struggle to achieve one goal and killing oneself over it. They are more contented people. They're happy with what they have. You see, but you are not the best in your class. And you're like, why do I have to? Can we all come first? Do I have to come first? I'm happy. It's okay. I'm happy. And you are the one not happy, pushing them, and all that. It's true, you have to encourage them. Like this head teacher that I told you about, that the mother and the elder sister kept working on them. That's the way to get them to improve, is to, since they don't mind being pushed around, is to push them and encourage them and so on. But they are content. After all, are we not looking for happiness, all of us? If they will tell you, I'm happy, you are the one that is not happy. I remember my phlegmatic, cholerics, we like to fix everything. So I noticed one of my brothers, I didn't know he was phlegmatic then, but I knew the characteristics. I just didn't know the name phlegmatic. And I said I had to fix him. So I was always on his case, I'll call with this, that. Until one day I called and he said, sister, because he's much younger than I, said, Sister Franca, and my blood pressure is like that of a baby. I said, what? Why? He said, no, my blood pressure is like that of a baby. You're already telling me that, I'm fine. I'm content. I'm happy. And I said, I better learn my lesson and I better relax. This is my choleric. I can't fix. The only person I can fix is myself. I can't be working on other people who are happy, but it doesn't mean we abandon them. We should also help. Okay. So we said that the phlegmatics are not enthusiastic people, and this not being enthusiastic can also be annoying to others. You sometimes you come back home, oh, you know what happened today? This, and you want somebody who's they say, oh, wait, that's great, and all you hear is, okay, it can be a little exasperating for you, okay? But they don't have many obvious weaknesses. That is the truth. The phlegmatic, like we said earlier, they are the easiest persons to live with, work with. Doesn't mean that we don't have problems with them. I remember a program we had for young girls and newly married girls on temperament. And one of them called me afterwards and said she actually attended that program for her mother's house. She had moved out of her matrimonial home because she couldn't stand her husband anymore. And they had just been married a year or so, And that after the session on temperament, she realized that she's choleric and her husband is phlegmatic. And that was the problem. And that was a Saturday. And that on Sunday, the next day, she was going to move back to her husband's house. And I just said, goodness gracious me, that session was worthwhile. It's just knowing that this man was not acting out of bad will. He was just being himself. How can you have to strive more, you have to do more, earn more. What if we have children? What is going to happen? We have to. That's the choleric, pushing, And the phlegmatic husband was like, it's kind of wahala. It is, and all that. And as soon as she understood it, she realized he doesn't mean harm to me. He is himself. I have to understand that. I have to accept that. So this is where I would like to stop. No, not really, not yet. This next slide before we go. Because we may have mixed temperaments. Not everybody has that, because I know just recently I gave this session on a program, and one person had 90-something% melancholic. So you can't really say that person has a mixed temperament. That person is melancholic. And that's real melancholic. I mean, 90-something%, that's a lot. But that's the person is made, that's a natural inclination, and it's beautiful. So it's now, how do you work with that? But most people have mixed temperaments. So choleric, sanguine, in which case choleric is more, sanguine, choleric, different combinations. I don't have all the combinations here. I am choleric, sanguine, and with time, I can assure you, I haven't done research on that, so I shouldn't say I can assure you really, because the sample size is very small, that we can change. I know a friend of mine who's in heaven now, and she used to attend, actually organize some of the programs where I taught taught temperaments, the Always a Bright program. And one day she said to me, I think I've changed since I married. And she said, marriage helps you a lot. And having children helps you to develop your character. She said those two things. Before she married, she was one temperament. She got married, and marriage, helped her started having to shape those negatives, work on them, improve. And then having children, wow, that also improves your selflessness. Even if you are choleric, forget it. The sympathy side comes up more, the humane side comes up more, and that she's been working. But of course, it wasn't just natural that because she married, because she had children. No, because she worked on it. So that's the hope, that even though God made us that way, He wants us to develop a character. And the beauty of parents first, is that you're able to help shape your children, to help them on that path already of developing character. Not that they're older like we are now, and it's now we are starting to say, I'm this temperament, so I have this to do, have that to do. We have that knowledge now. Let's see if we go out and do something about it. Thank you very much. Let me stop there. I talk too much usually.
Is that one of the weaknesses?
That's one of the sanguine weakness.
So thank you very much, Prof. Like, this has been eye-opening, and I need to take that test. And some people have already started taking the test. It's fantastic. So if you have questions, we'll just allow people come up with their questions. If you have questions, raise your hands, or you type it in, and then we can take that before we go. Thank you very much, Prof. So do we have questions?
Yes, Sandra, there's a question.
Where is it?
From Ebere.
Can you read it to the seats? Is it typed here?
It says, yes. For those preparing for marriage for compatibility purpose, how should temperament play out in choosing a life partner?
Okay. I don't know. I can't say choose this or that, but have a look. Do the temperament test and already know what you're getting into. The fact is that if you look at the statistics, many cholerics, we tend to marry phlegmatics, and sanguines, we tend to marry melancholics. Is that the best? No, but I think at the end of the day we're talking about what God wants, and you're falling in love with that person, isn't it? If God wants you to marry somebody, no matter the temperament of the person. I don't think temperament will determine, but it's good to know the temperament. If the girl I mentioned earlier, if she had found out earlier, before marriage, that her husband-to-be is phlegmatic and she's choleric, and I don't think she would have said, because he's phlegmatic, I won't marry him. She was in love with him, So, and she would have prayed before this. So it's just to be aware before, so that when the challenges come, it's phlegmatic that's playing out here. It doesn't mean harm. That's why I said knowledge of the temperament can reduce communication problems in a marriage by up to 90%. Because a lot of the problems are because we think the person is acting from bad will. How can you possibly say that? Or how can you possibly not do this? How can you? And when you then see that, hey, he's acting out his temperament, you calm down. And that can actually make a lot of difference.
Yes, sir, there's a raised hand. Unmute yourself and ask your question. Hello? Okay, I don't see him again. Okay, thank you. I think knowledge of definitely knowing, like, if you know better, you do better. I definitely believe that. And that's why we try to, parents first, we try to teach these things so that you are aware of what you're doing, what you're working with. Like if you have anger issues, for instance, you then can educate these emotions to see how you can get better, improve. And of course, you can't say this is the way I am. I think it's now the nature versus nurture. So can you say, if I am like this, I'm prone to anger, my weakness is this? Is that like a death sentence that I know you said it takes time, but like, how can I walk through these things? Are there tools to walk through these things? Character development, I guess we're now talking about.
Yes, Sandra, that's the next step, isn't it? That and now I know. So what's the next step? You know, for us is how can I, through self-mastery, how can I develop character? So this session is not on self-mastery, but little things, little struggles, you know, around in that area can help us. For example, the choleric, you know, the anger, you know, how can I overcome that? I think that has been addressed actually in the anger management. But when I lose it, is because I have not mastered myself. So how can I learn self-mastery so that I begin to work on those negatives or those areas for improvement in my own temperament? And I think that's a struggle for each one of us. And those little things of delayed gratification, okay, for Christians, we say that mortification, you know, little sacrifices, they make a difference because they help us to be in charge of ourselves and our emotions and our bodies. So my body is telling me I should eat. And then I say, okay, I'll eat in 5 minutes, not immediately. That delay, I still get the gratification of eating, but I've delayed it. That delay helps me. And so when I now need my body I need to control myself on something important, like I'm about to get angry, or that I need to spend time to finish this homework, okay? The child is able to get the strength to put that struggle. Why? Because the child has learned, it's not everything I feel like doing, I do. And even if I feel like doing it, I do it at a more convenient time. So I want ice cream. And that's why in bringing up children, it's very important to teach them those little mortifications or delayed gratification. I want ice cream. Mommy, I want ice cream now. I want ice cream now. You have to remember, I'm bringing up a child, not an animal. Therefore, if he's a child, I can tell the child, come back in 5 minutes. You have ice cream. Or, no, we're not having ice cream today. Why? No, we must have ice cream. I'm sorry, we don't have ice cream today. We forget about that. And another day, you know, and little by little, what the child learns is not every time I'm hungry for ice cream, I get it. It's not every time I feel like sleeping, I sleep. I feel like sleeping more, but it's time for school, I have to go. And that way, they control themselves. So the sanguine is able to muster that energy to be able to focus on one subject and finish it. How is that child going to? Because he has to develop self-mastery in little things, and then they master, get the energy to improve in a particular area.
Thank you very much, Prof. I mean, this has been mind-opening. I have really loved to be a part of this. I like that, for one, that we all learn that we are different and that the children that we have are different. I think there's an Igbo adage that says that is the same mother that gives birth, but then she has different children, like they come from different places. The thing you've asked, where did this one come from? Because you can't even tell where this one came from. So it's good to realize that it's not that they've come from anywhere different, it's that they have different temperaments. And then we start now to look at it. I saw a woman just said here that I'll be patient with one of my children, and I'm happy to see this because maybe this one deserves more patience, this one deserves praise, thrives on praise, like you said, and this one is argumentative, and you allow that because he's not really quarreling with you, he just wants to understand through banter that you know, this is the logical thing to do. So I think it's fantastic to put yourself in that headspace as a parent, that you have this. Then if there's also something you're working on with like your spouse or even on yourself, to know that self-mastery, I mean, one of the things I like is do not say this is the way I am. Things, and just say Mariana said that, not say this is the way I am. You definitely can always improve. There's always that thing you can do to get better. So I'm encouraged with this. I think personally, I'll start looking into self-mastery, and maybe hope we get on it here at Parents First too. So thank you very much. We are on Facebook. I think someone should paste the Facebook page. We're on Facebook. For any questions you have, to send it there. We can continue these conversations there. We would have this recording and the slides sent on Facebook to you too in the moment it's done. Thank you everyone for being part of this wonderful, wonderful educative seminar. Thank you, Prof. It's been interesting to have you. Well, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you. Bye-bye then.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you. So
Thank you.
everyone, we're moving over to Facebook. See you guys there. Thank you for giving us an hour of your time.
Thank you. Thank you
I hope
so
you
much, Prof.
learned one or two